conversations today in the boardroom, in the news, and across the kitchen table. It's a fundamental issue impacting quality of life in every society and a core issue in all of our businesses. Over the past decade, the development of shale gas reserves in the U.S. has begun to change the game in terms of electricity generation and is now felt in the capital planning of steel companies across North America. But what is happening in energy exploration, distribution, and demand on a global scale in regions we compete with? And what trends will influence the decisions of our customers and competitors around the world? Disease issues such as our panel of experts will strive to illuminate. We will look first at global trends, then zoom in for a closer look at North America, and then finally a look at the influences on our specific sector. After the panelists have delivered their remarks, we will open things up for questions from the floor. I'd like to now introduce our panelists, starting with Todd Ongeronk. Todd is a senior advisor in ExxonMobil's Corporate Strategic Planning Department. Since joining the department in 2000, he has been a mainstay in developing ExxonMobil's long-term energy outlook, which serves as the foundation for the corporation's strategic plans and investments. He is responsible for advising the corporation on the nature of energy and technology solutions likely to be adopted around the world, along with assessing potential implications for energy markets and the corporation. Todd is principal author of the Outlook for Energy Report, ExxonMobil's annual publication concerning the energy future. He is also active in communicating ExxonMobil's view on the energy future to policymakers, investors, business groups, and civic organizations. He has worked for ExxonMobil for close to 35 years in a wide variety of executive management and senior advisory positions. Todd, the podium is yours.
Join here and talk about energy, and as you've heard, energy is, of course, essential to our way of life and essential to, of course, billions of people around the world that don't have access to modern energy. Of course, that doesn't just happen. We take energy for granted here in the U.S. and North America, but as you can appreciate, your own industry takes a lot of planning, a lot of investment over time, and that's fundamentally why ExxonMobil does our energy outlook. We use it for our own business strategies and investments, we share it to help provide some other insights to industries like your own. And I want to share a few of those key insights with you today. Three I'll just highlight up front would be, first of all, efficiency. Energy efficiency is going to be key. Economies around the world are becoming more efficient, and we expect that to continue, even at an accelerated pace. Even with that efficiency, though, we're going to see energy demand growing worldwide. We expect demand in 2040 to be up about 35%. And the third key I'd highlight relates more to the supply side and what we're seeing in terms of how technology is unlocking additional oil and gas resources. And that is fundamentally reshaping, particularly here in North America, what's happening with our energy markets. Now, I'll try to give you a quick overview of the global situation in terms of demand, supplies, and also touch a little bit on North America. And when we start looking at our outlook, one of the things, of course, we look at is the population worldwide. And this shows you pretty well, where people are today, about 7 billion people in the world today. By 2040, that'll be close to 9 billion people, so global population up by about 4 times what North America's population is today. And you can see the lion's share of that growth is going to be in Asia Pacific and Africa. So when we look at energy trends going forward, we have to keep in mind where the people are going to be 30 years from now. Another key driver, of course, is economic activity. We're coming through, as we heard yesterday, some pretty difficult times in terms of the economy. Of course, we've done that before. I think if you go back to 1980, we've had at least 3 recessions over that period of time. Economy tends to bounce back. We expect over the next 30 years, the economy will be growing on average close to 3% per year. Faster growth, though, in developing countries, non-OECD countries, really led by China, and also India. Both of those countries we expect to be growing about 5 to 6% over the next 30 years. North America, the other OECD countries, growing somewhere on the order of 2% per year. So economic growth being split about 50-50 between developing countries and the OECD countries. Now in terms of energy demand, you can see we expect to be growing at a much slower pace, and that reflects what I talked about earlier, a lot of efficiency being built into the economies around the world. That's coming through better technologies, better energy management practices, just better focus on how people use energy around the world. And of course, driven somewhat by government policy. And one of the keys that's coming down the road is something related to carbon emissions and a higher cost on energy associated with that. But by capturing those savings, you can see how much energy we're really saving around the world by keeping demand growth slower than the economic growth. When we look globally, or particular countries, how a society uses energy, how much energy it needs really relates to 4 key uses of energy. One is electricity generation. That is the largest source of energy demand today, which to me is pretty surprising since just 100 years ago electricity was basically a novelty. Already it's penetrated our societies to such an extent that it is the largest source of demand today, and will be accounting for about 50% of the growth in energy demand worldwide. Of course, all that electricity that's being produced ends up primarily in the industrial sectors or in our residential commercial buildings. So those two will be growing, a lot of that growth being fueled by electricity demand. I'd like to just talk a little bit about some of these sector trends that we see globally. On the left is the energy that's used in the industrial applications. So this includes everything from heavy manufacturing, including steel and cement, also includes chemicals, agriculture uses, energy industry use, the energy used to produce oil and gas and coal and that. You can see beginning in 2000, energy demand in the industrial sector really began to take off, and it was really driven by what was happening in China with the build-out of their infrastructure. In our view, we expect that growth to be plateauing fairly soon in the 2020, 2025 timeframe, and then energy demand in China for industrial applications actually beginning to decline. Some of that is their economy slows, but also as they become more efficient in how they use energy in those sectors. Taking up some of the slack, we expect India to be coming along, and also other developing countries. And you can see in the OECD countries, we expect energy demand for the industrial sector to run pretty flat. That doesn't mean industrial activity is going to be flat. It just means that we're going to be more efficient in how we use energy. On the right, you can see a pretty good mix of energy used in the industrial sector, but growing shares of oil, natural gas, and electricity over time. Another key sector affecting energy, of course, is transportation, related particularly to oil demand. I've got a truck here to illustrate and highlight the point that going forward, even though a lot of focus is on cars on the road, a lot of energy demand growth in transportation is going to be related to the trucking sector. When we do our outlook, and as you mentioned, we do this at a very grassroots level. We look at about 100 countries in detail and all the different demand sectors. In transportation, we look at 5 key subsectors. There's light-duty vehicles at the bottom there, and then what we call commercial transportation sectors, heavy-duty trucking, marine, aviation, and rail. In our view, demand for the light-duty vehicle segment, basically cars, is going to run pretty flat. So today, the world population, world fleet of cars is about 800 million. We expect by 2040 there'll be about 1.6 billion cars on the road, but we'll be keeping demand relatively flat because the cars are going to be much more fuel efficient. So essentially, all the growth in transportation demand is going to be coming through heavy-duty trucking, aviation, marine, and that reflects, to a large extent, a lot of globalization and a lot of trade activity. Where's transportation demand growing? No surprise, a lot of that growth is going to be in Asia Pacific, where we see strong growth in the economies and where people can now begin to afford a car for the first time. In North America and Europe, we expect demand to be pretty flat. Some growth in the commercial segments, but declining demand in the light-duty vehicle segment. And then other developing regions like Latin America and the Middle East, we expect demand there to grow as well. Now, when I step back and look at the outlook, one of the key aspects of it relates to electricity generation. This is the largest component of demand today. It's going to account for about 50% of the growth in demand worldwide. And a big driver for that is just how people use electricity around the world. And we expect electricity demand worldwide to increase by about 85%. So So to fuel that, we expect a huge increase in energy demand into the power sector. Most of that growth is going to be in developing countries where electricity demand is going to increase by about 150%, or about 85% of the global increase in demand. In the OECD countries, we expect demand to be pretty flat. Electricity demand up about 25%, 30%, but with more efficient power plants coming in the mix, fuels required to produce electricity will stay pretty flat. Let me go back and just highlight here. On the right, you just see the types of energy that are going to be used to fuel the growth. In the non-OECD countries, we see increases in coal, natural gas, nuclear power, and renewables. In countries like China today, where they don't have a carbon tax in place, they're rapidly moving to adopt natural gas and nuclear power. I think China has close to 30 nuclear plants under construction today. So they are looking to shift away from coal to some extent. In the OECD countries, we do anticipate that, like Europe has today, an emissions trading system to help reduce CO2 emissions. We do expect North America and other OECD countries will be adopting over the next couple decades some sort of carbon regime, either through a carbon tax or an emission trading system, or just regulations that tend to put a cost on CO2. As governments do that, it's going to tend to force coal out of the mix and have people switching toward natural gas, nuclear, and renewables. Our view for North America shows pretty flat demand. You can see not much change in the shift of the sector where energy is used. The biggest change is likely to be in the mix of energy, as shown on the right. We do expect oil demand has already peaked in North America and it's going to taper down. We expect some increase in natural gas, most of that increase is driven by the power sector. And you can see coal getting squeezed out over the outlook period as more natural gas, nuclear, and renewables come in to meet electricity demand. So this slide shows what we call a tale of two worlds, where on the left we show the developing countries, demand growing rapidly. In that region, we expect economic activity to be up about 250%, and with that, demand is likely to grow about 65%. On the other hand, in the OECD countries, slower economic growth, still growing about 100%, or I should say about 80% over the outlook period, with demand running pretty flat, and that's going to be possible as the economy continues to get more efficient. When you roll it all up on a global basis and look at the types of energy we use worldwide, oil is number one today. We expect it's still going to be the number one source of energy worldwide in 2040. The biggest change we see is in natural gas, where there's a huge amount of natural gas resource now available. We expect that to surpass coal and become number two in terms of worldwide supplies by about 2025, and then move up rapidly. Nuclear power and renewables, wind, solar, biofuels will also be growing pretty significantly. I just touched briefly on supplies. You look back 100 years ago, the world was primarily using wood and coal to meet their energy needs. Today, oil and natural gas supply about 55% of supplies, and we expect by 2040 that number is actually going to be closer to 60%. It's really one of the biggest stories that I can look back and say my 35 years that I've seen in the industry, how technology has just come in and continues to unlock more and more resources that can be developed economically and safely. We really see it in the oil side when we look at deep water supplies, tight oil now that we talked about yesterday in Bakken, or oil sands from Canada, Venezuela. Just back in 2000, those three segments represented about 2% of supplies, but by 2040 we expect they'll be up to about 25% of supplies. So growth there, along with growth in natural gas liquids and biofuels, is going to help meet that growing demand for liquid fuels around the world. Of course, technology is playing a big role on the natural gas side as well, really led by what's happened in North America with unlocking of shale gas. In 2010, the unconventional gas represented less than 15% of global supplies. We expect by 2040 it's going to be about a third of supplies. And even more significant is in North America, we expect the unconventional gas, shale gas, going to be represented close to 80% of natural gas supplies here in North America. I want to highlight just briefly one of the other elements that's happening as we see energy demand and supplies evolve. Here in North America, of course, we've been importing oil for a long period of time. In our view, as demand begins to taper down and supplies grow, we expect by about 2030 North America will be balanced in terms of supply and demand, and beginning to shift toward a net export position. And that really reflects the growth in Canadian oil sands, tight oil, and deep water. I'm just mentioning one other thing here related to natural gas. I won't show it here, but natural gas we expect to actually be, you see North America move into a net export position by about 2020. Of course, there are a number of LNG projects now being proposed. Those are with the government. ExxonMobil has one of those as well. So we would expect that there's going to be opportunities for the U.S. to meet both domestic needs and also meet growing demand for LNG around the world. Fundamentally, just reflects kind of an evolution of energy. This goes back a couple hundred years. You can see the world has made a dramatic shift in the types of energy that we use worldwide. What's common here is that we continue to move toward energy that's more abundant, more convenient to use, cleaner, and we expect that trend to continue. It does take a lot of time to make these transitions. The world does use today about 25 times more energy than it did 200 years ago. And so you can get a perspective. When oil was first commercially developed in 1859, it took about 100 years for oil to become the #1 source of energy worldwide. So we expect this trend to continue. It is going to be facilitated, of course, ultimately by what policies are in place to bring on new supplies and make those affordable for consumers. I'll just wrap it there. We do have an energy outlook report that we publish each year. You can download it on our website, exxonmobil.com/energy outlook. This is a global view. We also provide a U.S. edition to give you more perspective there. So I'll stop there and look forward to your questions.
Thank you, John. Our second panelist is David Eaves, President and CEO of Public Service Company in Colorado from 2006 to 2009. David was President and CEO of Southwestern Public Service Company, Xcel Energy's utility operating company in Texas and New Mexico. Prior to that, he was Vice President of Resource Planning and Acquisition for Xcel Energy, where he had responsibility for resource planning, wholesale power supply, transmission rights, and gas transportation and storage services for all of Xcel Energy's operations in 8 states. He currently serves as a member of the Executive Committee and Board of Directors of the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. He is a trustee for Mile High United Way and a board member for Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Denver and Mountain States Employers Council. He's also a member of the Colorado Forum and Colorado Concern. David received a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Kansas State University in 1981. David, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot. So when I got a call midweek and an invitation to come here to see if we could come and speak today, I looked at my calendar and I saw a whole bunch of meetings about. Have any of you ever heard of Boulder, Colorado? Have you been there? They're trying to municipalize on us, and I think I had 4 meetings on my calendar this morning that were about Boulder. And I thought about Ever as our biggest customer, people I really like working with, who are kind of helping us think about our business differently. It's like, this is not a difficult choice. I've had it in Colorado Springs. So anyway, I'll try to be really brief. I have a few slides, but I think maybe this will lend it, a lot of this information will lend itself to discussion more so than this presentation. But kind of taking from the global look, zeroing in on North America, and I'll focus a little bit more on the parts of the country we serve, but look at the country in some respects. So first off, our company, one of the bigger utilities in the country, we still operate entirely in regulated cost of service markets. We don't have any retail choice in our area. We're in 8 states. Our headquarters is in Minneapolis. There's really 4 different utility companies that comprise our company. And it's pretty much core business for us is power generation, transmission, distribution, and we also serve about 2 million gas customers. So we're a local distribution company. To kind of give you a perspective about where we are in the competitiveness spectrum, our rates across all of our companies are below the national average, about 10% below the national average. That 9-cent rate, any of you in the steel business, I think you know that you don't pay that rate. That's kind of an aggregate pretty reflective of our other companies, except the Texas company, and we have some of the lowest rates in the country at our operation at SPS. This is a game changer. The natural gas supply picture, what's happened with the development of shale and fracking, horizontal drilling, with the technology that's being deployed. It's making a huge difference for us in two respects. One is a gas company. I won't focus on that very long, but as a gas distribution company, 70, if you go back, wind the clock back 5 years, 75% of my customers' bill for the gas bill was the commodity. A very small piece of it was us. So the lower gas prices, more stable gas prices, have really reduced our customers' gas bills, and I think given us in the industry an opportunity to take this moment in time with low financing costs, the need for economic development, to buy some of your steel and invest in our pipeline business and try to upgrade it and get the integrity of the infrastructure in this country back closer to where it needs to be. So we're doing that in a big way. On the electric side of our business, it's a big fuel choice for us. And I have some other slides that will go into that, but natural gas at these prices, and our forecast for that, this next slide actually shows it a lot better. In 2008, that's what the picture looked like for us. We forecasted by the middle of the next decade, prices moving to $10 a gallon. By the way, at the time, we're also forecasting pretty significant carbon costs through cap and trade or some kind of tax. Not that carbon's gone away, but the monetization, that's a little different now. But look where we are today. I mean, we're forecasting basically a $5 to $5.50 average gas price over this 20-year period. And that makes a huge difference in terms of the cost to our customers, the technology we deploy, coal versus gas. It's making a big difference on the renewables. In the electric industry, this is something that our main national trade organization, Edison Electric Institute, puts this chart out. I think all of these rules apply to you too. This is the EPA. We call this a train wreck. So basically, we have all these different regulations, about 3/4 of which will get repromulgated, they'll get overturned, they'll get relitigated, they'll come back in some other form under a different name, 2 years later. And you're probably a lot like we are, having really difficult challenges trying to decide whether to get on the stick and get in compliance with an expected rule, whether it's CARE or CASPER or whatever, versus watching those things be overturned and trying to decide whether or not to be proactive or not. So we've done a lot of proactive work within the company, and the change in the gas prices really made a lot of that possible. Lower gas prices, we see natural gas and combined cycle plant dispatching ahead of existing coal units. When that happens, granted that probably takes $3 gas or $3.50 or maybe $4 gas. But when that can happen, it means you're pretty close to making some different decisions about retirement, repowering, replacement with combined cycle gas, etc. So we've actually done a lot of that. In 2010, here in Colorado, we were one of the first companies to actually step up and look at a gigawatt of coal, which for us on a 7,000 megawatt system with about 3,800 megawatts of coal in Colorado. That was a pretty big step, but looked at and proposed converting about a gigawatt of coal over to natural gas. These are old Eisenhower era plants. These are plants that were going to need scrubbers, SCRs that were facing compliance issues with a number of regulations and requirements. And this plan has turned out to be pretty economic. But as you look, the little bit in Colorado there, the 1,000 megawatts on our system, you can see comparatively what's happened around the country. And now we're looking at, I think, a planned 70 gigawatts of coal-fired generation to be retired, replaced, shut down, repowered on natural gas, and to be replaced with more and more renewables. That's over 25% of the coal fleet of the country. Okay, so a huge impact here. And as we started to do this, customers like the ones represented here and a lot of other customers really worried about natural gas prices a sense of what that looks like for us right now in Colorado. We are currently about 65% coal in our mix, and about 20% renewables, mostly wind, so it's real expensive today, and the rest is natural gas. Okay, where we're headed is toward a 45 to 50% coal in our mix, and an even split of the rest between gas and renewables. Again, mostly wind. But that piece, that piece of the supply mix that is gas driven, the 25 to 30% natural gas, I think it used to be pretty scary. It was a piece that everybody's very, very worried about, and even some of our recent cost escalation projections show some that being one of the main drivers of our rates to our customers. And I think we see more and more of that. More and more we need to work on opportunities to help our customers lock that in, to deal with it, maybe manage it differently. At the very least, to understand what part of our picture that is, so that maybe separately you can take that into account and hedge that in your business. So this is about 4 months old. I should have updated because things continue to change, but set aside all the existing power production infrastructure in the country. If we look at new technologies, here's kind of how they stack up. This is with $5 over the next 15-year gas. So you can see the effect of the tax subsidies on solar, large utility scale, and rooftop solar, and you can also see the effect on wind. Natural gas is the technology of choice. New nuclear, new coal, pretty expensive. Those numbers, at $110, $120 per megawatt hour are still probably a little bit understated. If you could build that and get it done in the next decade. The other thing I'll just close with is our industry across the whole country is facing some real challenges. We're not experiencing any growth. We still haven't grown back to where we were in 2008 in terms of the energy that our customers in Colorado need from us. We don't have any growth, but our stuff is really old. We built the infrastructure, the wires, the poles, the substations, the transmission lines, and power plants. We built it as we grew post-World War II. And it's all getting really old. And everybody in the industry is investing a lot of money starting to replace that infrastructure. What we don't have accompanying it is the sales growth to pay for it. This is a real problem. And you see utilities across the country for rate increases. You see all kinds of mechanisms, even in deregulated markets, to collect the transmission and distribution infrastructure investments. So I think it's really important that we work with our big customers at a time like this, where power production is the biggest part of the picture. It makes me feel really good about what we're doing in Colorado. Make the investments now. By the time we get to the end of this decade, by the time we get to even 2017, we're back to a picture where we think we're in compliance with most of the foreseeable regs. We're investing closer to our depreciation instead of what we're doing today, 3 times our depreciation. We are going to the markets to get the money to invest in, replacement of these plants, building transmission, replacing distribution. Think about that, doing it at a time when there's no growth in our sales. A lot of cost pressures, but I see light at the end of the tunnel, especially for our big customers that take direct transmission service. So anyway, a lot going on here. It's a really important time for energy suppliers and big users to be working together to get this picture right. Because all these companies across the country are somewhat different in terms of where they're at tackling these challenges. So anyway, thank you very much for getting me away from Boulder this morning. And look forward to questions.
Thank you, David. Our third panelist is Joseph Jerzowski, President and CEO of SMS CMAG. Joe was named his current position in 2006. He is a graduate of the University of Michigan with a degree in metallurgical engineering and also attended the Executive Management Program at the University of Michigan School of Business. Joe began his career as a melter at McLeod Steel in 1988 and moved to SMS Comcast in 1990 as Senior Metallurgical Engineer. As a continuous caster startup metallurgist, He commissioned numerous facilities in the U.S. and abroad. He held several positions, including Vice President of Steelmaking and Continuing Casting at SMS DMAG, and Director of Sales for Steelmaking and Continuous Casting at SMS DMAG in Dusseldorf, Germany. Joe, welcome, and thanks for your support of our issue.
Thanks, Chuck. I noticed that my name was actually spelled wrong and that it ends in SKI, and Chuck nailed the pronunciation now, but because of its complexity, I'm usually better known as Joe D. Well, I'd like to say thanks to AISI for allowing me this opportunity. Larry Kavanaugh called me a few months ago and asked me to speak about how an abundance of shale gas impacts steelmaking technology. Overview, we'd like to talk about in the next moments. A quick overview of who the SMS group is, the status of shale gas and naphtha tubular products, shale gas's impact on primary steelmaking operations, then metallurgical plant technology for tubular products, both seamless as well as welded substrate. SMS is a metallurgical plant builder. We exactly call us energy experts, but we do build energy recovery systems. With a recent acquisition of a 60% interest in Hallworth, we now supply the complete metallurgical process chain from iron making through finish rolling for ferrous materials, but also for non-ferrous applications as well. We're privately owned by the Weiss family. Our corporate history dates back to 1871. In fact, we are one of less than 1% of all German companies that have been in existence for over a century. We've got about 13,000 employees. Our owner likes to refer to us as a medium-sized company. Main offices in Dusseldorf, major workshop in Wilschenbach, Germany, as well as Mönchengladbach. Offices, industrial workshops, and service facilities worldwide. Essentially, we're divided into two groups. SMS CMAG, which focuses on flat products, and SMS Mir, focusing on long products as well as forging technology. We supply our own electrics and automation and after-sales service. There's been a major shift from conventional vertical rigs to horizontal drilling over the last decade approximately. You can see where horizontal drilling goes down about a mile and into about a quarter-mile radius to the horizontal position before hydraulic fracturing occurs. Projections for natural gas production over the next quarter century is basically it should double from this point moving forward. And what's that mean to the steel industry? A lot of pipes will be required for casings, tubing, line pipes for conducting the gas, drill pipes and perforation guns to place and fire charges in the desired section of the well. And we expect even more pipes to be required because of the increasing complexity of the wells. The linear footage from 2006 has increased by more than 50%, well over a mile in length per rig. The number of horizontal rigs also has increased significantly, whereas the population in 2000 was about 20% overall. Today it's more than half. There's an increase in mechanical and thermal stress requirements, more challenging corrosive conditions, requirements for tighter gas connections, there's increasing safety and environmental requirements, and a growing demand for volumes of small diameter pipes. Well, where are all the pipes coming from? Unfortunately, on a historic basis, about half of the U.S. OCTG seamless pipes are being imported. And in order to Sees the opportunity for the increase in expected demand for pipes. There's been a number of new seamless pipe mills that have come online or have been announced to be coming online within the next couple of years, namely Daenerys Tamsa in New Mexico, B&M Star in Youngstown, Ohio, Tianjin Pipe of China in Gregory, Texas, Ventler Steel Tube in Shreveport, Louisiana, and Daenerys has also announced another new greenfield facility in Bay City, Texas. All these plants are expected to produce roughly 500,000 tons per year of seamless API and premium grade quality tubes. With these announced plants, we're expecting to see North American seamless and welded OCTG capacity increase by about 20% over the next 5 years. How do you make a high quality pipe? Well, particular steps need to be considered in the complete process chain, starting from high quality scrap, DRI, HBI, hot metal, pig iron, melted either in an electric arc furnace or a basic oxygen furnace. Secondary metallurgy is extremely critical, especially vacuum degassing in order to achieve extra low hydrogen levels, and continuous casting of rounds for seamless applications or slabs for welded tubes. Some of the particular steps for continuous casting include dynamic hydraulic mold oscillation, special mold geometry in order to promote homogeneous shell growth and uniform heat transfer, electromagnetic mold stirring, dynamic solidification control, and liquid core reduction for flat products in the solidified shell. An overview of a modern PQF mill, referred to as premium quality finishing mill, starts with a rotary hearth furnace, followed by a piercing mill, then the PQF mill, which is a retained mandrel technology. Then there's the extracting mill for the mandrel, followed by the sizing or stretch reducing mill in order to achieve the final dimensional requirements. Like David pointed out, natural gas in the U.S. is cheap. It's anywhere from 100 to almost 300% cheaper than other areas of the world. And even better yet, it's expected to be maintained for the foreseeable future, at least the next decade plus, which is a big change from the pricing volatility that we have historically seen. And the result of the low U.S. natural gas on primary operations means a switch from pulverized coal injection to natural gas injection in blast furnaces, which could be a significant operating cost savings, progressive increase of DRI in blast furnaces while reducing the coke rate, substitution in the blast furnace iron ore charge for HBI, which reduces CO2 generation for that portion by 50% over the total cycle to finished product. Burning coal requires substantial environmental cleanup equipment, whereas natural gas is a clean fuel. And with the growing interest in DRI production, energy savings would be realized when utilizing hot DRI as a charge material into an electric arc furnace. Who's looking at DRI? Seems to be almost everyone now in the U.S. in particular. Electric arc furnace steel makers for both long and flat products, as well as integrated plants. A possible scenario of the future as envisioned by Bank of America Merrill Lynch sees DRI production in the U.S. going from basically zero today, upwards of 20 million tons by the end of the decade. The most efficient mill systems for the production of seamless OCTGs is SMS's PQF technology. This is a 3-roll technology where each of the rolls are individually steel grades as well as tighter geometrical tolerances can be achieved. It's an economical approach for thin wall tubes. There's less and more even wear of the tools, and higher yields can be achieved as well. This is the reference list for 3-roll PQF mills over the last decade. What's interesting here, but not unlike all other steel-related products, of the 20 plants that have been built, more than half have been built in China. Our latest reference will be at Tianjin Pipe of China, but in Texas, and utilizing our recent technology, that being a bilateral changeover, whereas the mill stands can be changed over from both sides of the mill, thereby reducing changeover time and increasing production time or uptime. It also produces a more symmetrical rolling, which again produces tighter geometrical tolerances. Shifting to flat products, we've seen a couple trends here. For conventional mills, there's a greater interest in heavier gauge applications, namely heavier gauge coilers up to 1 inch. For thin slab cast rolling technology, we refer to it as CSP, or compact strip production, which is casting a thin slab directly charged into a tunnel furnace and then rolled into a conventional finishing train. This process takes about 30 minutes from molten steel to hot band. The recent demand for this type of technology is for higher strength and thicker gauge API grades. Our solution in order to achieve that is to introduce a medium stand, or an M1 stand, in front of the finishing train. It's a stronger stand than an F1, and it has about a double standoff distance compared to the other mill stands. This allows enough room for the placement of induction heating system. This is a better overview of the mill configuration, and from your left, showing the exit of the tunnel furnace, followed by a crop shear, descale system, the M1 stand, the induction heating system, and then the finishing train. We refer to it, this is a variable mill, and its operational benefits includes high reductions at high temperatures in both the medium stand as well as the first finishing stand. Sufficient time between the medium stand and F1 to complete full recrystallization twice, which achieves a homogeneous fine-grained microstructure. We think this technology will allow the maximum gauge thickness achievable of 20 millimeters for API grade X70. So in summary, I think the low-cost natural gas appears to be a sustained game changer. Use of natural gas and DRI in blast furnaces is gaining attention. Construction of new DRI plants are under investigation by many domestic steel producers. Complexity and demand of tubular products continues to grow in support of shale gas drilling. SMS's advanced PQF technology continues to evolve to meet the growing demands for seamless tubes. And SMS has once again extended the product mix for CSP technology to include high strength and thick API grades for welded pipe. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you, Joe. There's a couple guys from Pittsburgh in the steel business, so I would have been embarrassed if your name would have thrown me for a loop there. We're going to move to Q&A right now, and in a few minutes take your questions from the floor as well. You have pads and pens in front of you. If you prefer to go anonymous and send them up there, that's fine too. So I have a few questions here, and I'll start with the first one, extending from Joe, your technology presentation here. What are the technology, a bit closer to home, what are the technology alternatives an integrated producer, facing a blast furnace reline would consider now, and will it look different 10 years from now?
Sure. SMS, we developed a technology referred to as an integrated arc furnace, or IAF, and it's essentially replacing in kind in the exact position of BOF for an electric arc furnace, coupled with a scrap charging mechanism for conventional scrap or DRI. The philosophy is no scrap preheating, but to carry basically a 100% heal in the integrated arc furnace, so it acts as a thermal flywheel and continuously charges scrap. We think that this approach would be more cost benefit relative to a complete blast furnace reline.
Okay, well, I know we have a lot of engineers in the room, and we can certainly follow up on that. Thank you. Automotive segment is obviously extremely important to us, and if I could ask Todd, you for your comments on energy demand in the transportation sector that you showed is growing from 2010 to 2025 and on to 2040. Does this mean the impact of the fuel economy regulations, i.e., 55 mile per gallon in 2025, is overcome by population issues and therefore more cars?
Well, certainly North America or any region where there's population growth, we expect there to be additional cars on the road. In the U.S., we do have this new cafe, 54.5 miles per gallon on the road that will be different. But a couple of things to look at in that. First of all, we do expect that target is going to be reached, but we think reaching that in 2025 is going to be very difficult. There is a midterm review scheduled for 2017, and I think the automakers feel fairly comfortable they can get to kind of the interim targets through existing technologies to improve the powertrain. We also expect that they're pursuing a lot more hybridization of cars like a Toyota Prius. We also think there's going to be pressure on them to reduce the size of cars and also to look for lightweight materials for cars to achieve some of these standards. Whether or not they'll be able to sell those to consumers is still to be determined at a price where they can make money. So a lot of challenges. Those are very aggressive targets. Same thing in Europe. Very aggressive targets. We think the 2015 targets that Europe's heading for, that those can be achieved, but some more aggressive ones for 2020 are very difficult to get to. So it's a balance, I think, between more cars on the road, more people driving, but what the automaker will be doing to try to meet some of those fuel economy standards through technologies.
From our standpoint, more cars on the road with lighter, stronger steel.
Certainly that's what they'd be looking at.
David, a question from your presentation. Excel has a diverse portfolio of power generation alternatives, as you showed. Now, how does this balance shift as coal plants are retired, and how feasible is new coal and large utility solar for replacing these retired plants?
Well, there's a lot there. New coal, probably not feasible, and definitely not economic at this point unless something happens to that forward curve on gas. Okay? I don't think we'll see more new coal units. In terms of how all these technologies integrate, we've been like the #1 wind utility in the country for 9 years, I think, according to the WIA. We've got 4,800 megawatts of wind power. Like in Colorado alone, on a 7,000 megawatt system, we got 2,200. And we're actually looking at maybe adding another 500 to that. So we're spending a ton of money like investigating and working with technology partners to develop better ways to forecast. It's intermittent. You get a lot more generation at night than you get during the day with loads there. But gas integrates better with wind. We unload all of our coal plants, we dispatch them around the wind, but it's a lot easier to have quick start, mid-merit units, combined cycle gas, and gas turbines that we can have a lot more flexibility coming on and off the grid. So there's a lot going on, and it's real technical. But I think we see utilities across the country starting to do more and more of this. I was in our resource planning group when we got our first 80 megawatts of wind, and I was up there crying wolf at the PUC about how we can't manage that much uncertainty. Now we got 2,300. We'll probably go to closer to 3,000. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, well, it does. I ask you to maybe expand a little bit on and what you see is the of new nuclear plants as opposed to refurbishing existing ones.
Yeah, we do have 3 units at 2 nuclear plants in the upper Midwest, and we're refurbishing. It really makes sense to do the life extension. All those plants were built with a 40-year life, and almost universally across the country extended to 60. I don't know about the next one. About half the companies are doing power upgrades, so you have the capability with the nuclear part of the plant, improve efficiencies in power production, and get a 10 to 15%. So a lot of companies doing that, but when you look at new nuclear, there are a lot of companies moving into that toward the end of the last decade. And I mean, a couple of things have changed. 3 things really. Fukushima, what happened in Japan, and the extra regulations, the uncertainty. Second, gas prices, that's probably the biggest thing. Third, the absence of a definitive carbon cost that's going to be imputed right away. I mean, when we were looking at Waxman Markey bill in 2009 and 10, let's say look at a $20 carbon cost, and back then we had $6, $7 gas. This nuclear made sense. Put a new nuclear plant online today so you can get it built in 8, 9 years. It's going to be 11 or 12 cents a kilowatt hour at the bus park. Now counting all my other costs and transmission and everything. Today you can build a combined cycle, so you get $5 gas, and that's 7 cents a pound. So unless something happens to environmental regs that disrupt the continued development of natural gas, it's just too clean and too much cheap.
Thanks, Dave. Todd, opinion from ExxonMobil?
Well, I totally agree with the 3 drivers David mentioned. If there is a carbon tax or a carbon policy in place, that certainly is going to open up the economic window for nuclear to move in. There's still issues, the upfront cost, the financing of that, the risk to actually build it and be able to operate it. So a lot of regulatory issues around nuclear, natural gas, certainly moving into the power sector because of economics, but also we see just as wind, intermittent renewables move into the power sector, natural gas plays a much better role in terms of helping back up those supplies. There's really 3 ways, I think, to kind of handle that intermittency. One is by having backup capacity that is flexible like natural gas, or better interconnectivity across the grid can be costly, or something on the demand management side where you can kind of shape the peaks a bit. In our view, natural gas is probably the most effective way to come in and meet that need. And I think people are beginning to realize, especially in Europe where renewables are playing a much bigger role, that there really is an additional cost that somebody has to pay at the end of the day as you build more renewables into that mix.
Can I jump in? Just add, I'd like to add one thing. The cost of wind, it really depended upon these federal tax credits. We have the investment tax credit that expires and the ramps down in 2016. It really helps solar. And then production tax credit drives the wind. It takes 2 cents a kilowatt out of the cost, basically. But we have seen the cost of this drop so much, it's unbelievable. The improvements that have been made. We have wind farms that are operating at 50+% capacity factor. That is kind of becoming rule, not exception. And our last set of wind farms we brought online, levelized costs over 25 years, 3.5 cents a kilowatt hour. We're seeing some proposals now. Granted, they're everybody's trying to get these projects done before the tax credit expires. It's good turbulence. We're seeing projects in the mid 2.5 cent range. That is equivalent to $3.50 gas if you just look at them as energy substitutes over 25 years. So I think, you know, I don't know what will happen with federal tax policy, but that kind of resource we're looking at backing up the truck and putting as much in the back as we can. Do that now and try to get the hedge on your system for these gas prices.
The tax credit outstanding, though, you bring up wind towers, do they ever go offshore? Or will they go offshore in North America? In Gulf of Mexico,
All the environmental issues and the aesthetics and the view issues. They're really expensive machines, they're bigger machines that generate a lot more. There's plenty of places, like in the states we serve, there's plenty of places that would like to have and generate it in a spot in the middle of the country with windmills. Now they've been down on the taxes for 4 years. It's a great place to find generation, I can tell you.
Absolutely.
Hey, on your graph, you showed the impact of subsidies on various forms of energy. Wind had the smallest impact. Is it lowering the cost versus like solar and renewables? Would imply that the loss of tax credits, otherwise question, if the project's in time, really should not have that big impact on future building of wind energy production in this country. Is that, am I reading that right?
You know, the scale on that graph, I think I had wind at, close to 8 cents a kilowatt hour without the tax credit, with it, 87 cents.
Yeah, it's still now at the same level as gas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's starting to look like it's possible that wind can still run without the tax credit.
The reason I ask that is that the producers are all sitting there going, okay, when that does credit expire, it's career, that industry is going to disappear. It doesn't sound like what their experience now is saying that it should be taken because the impact of the credits were positive are not that positive. That would kill the production ratio.
Yeah, it's still a significant impact, but, I mean, the improvements that have been made in technology and production and performance of the plant, they let us control it. We can actually put automatic generation control on these things and we regulate them. They do all kinds of things and they're much more efficient and produce at 50-55% capacity factor. All those things kind of offset some of the effect of the tax credit. And frankly, I don't think it's going to fall off the map. I think there will be a general decline that's phased out to help sustain the industry.
This question for Todd, I think you mentioned there'd be a 65% growth in the transportation from the heavy truck side, and I'm starting to see people considering compressed natural gas and LNG for the heavy truck industry to replace diesel. Was that number taken into consideration, or is that such a new trend that was subject to be impacted even more?
Yeah, I mean, we still expect that 65% to cover all fuels. For natural gas and transport, we have looked at that pretty closely, and we do see LNG for trucking, heavy-duty trucking, and also for marine activities to be growing pretty significantly in North America and also in Asia. A little bit less growth in some other regions. But certainly with where gas prices are relative to oil prices today, there's a lot of interest by the trucking industry to look at that opportunity. So we do expect some pretty substantial growth. over-the-road trucks, economics make most sense for LNG. Small commercial fleets can probably run on CNG when they come back to a central refueling hub. For passenger cars, you'll see a whole lot of potential for CNG to take over there. So good potential, but at the end of the day, even with some pretty strong growth, oil's going to remain prominent. We still see natural gas share of total transportation fuels somewhere around 5% in 2040. So a lot of growth, but in the big picture, relatively small share of total transport.
Thank you. Back on equipment for a second. Joe, well, would you mind going over some of the types of tubing and drilling applications?
Well, we're an equipment builder, so we build equipment that produces the tubes for all of the applications that I think I listed on one of the slides: casing, tubing, line pipes for conducting, then the perforation guns for the wells. My answer to the question.
That came from before, actually, so we have one of those. At the same time, we're also investing in chemical facilities here because we think there's a strong case we made that there's plenty of natural gas in the U.S. The resource estimates keep going up. Potential Gas Committee, one of the more recognized groups that looks at this, has just increased their estimates, saying there's at least 100-year supply of natural gas in the U.S. So we would expect there's plenty of gas to support growth in the domestic manufacturing chemical sector, as well as provide export opportunities. And so our view is that we should pursue those free trade opportunities where they make sense and just let the market work that out. I mean, LNG trade today, and it was mentioned over the last day or two, there's still significant gaps in LNG or in gas prices in different regions. The LNG trade has been closing some of those gaps, but it's still a relatively small share of total gas supply, somewhere less than 10%. Even by 2040, we still see maybe 15% of global gas trade. So we still expect, I'm not going to predict prices, but we need to have a lot more infrastructure connecting those markets to have them converge to a global price.
David?
No, I would just say this is a personal view. I watched all the LNG import planning and looked at natural gas becoming a global commodity instead of a domestic commodity, all the risks associated with that. Look how much things have changed. I personally look around the world and look where the shale formations are, and I think that the $7 to $12, $13 natural gas prices in some parts of the world, that they can get to that shale eventually too. So it feels to me like, it's a basis that exists, it's an opportunity that may be short-lived, except for some in Japan or maybe some parts of the world. So I'm all for it, but I'm not sure that there's really a great long-term opportunity. I'm really excited about the jobs that can come here with the help of this industry. Take advantage of these low gas prices and let's make some more things back here.
Joe, offer your opinion?
It seems to be an immediate opportunity. So I think we should take advantage of it as long as it's done in a very controlled manner.
Two questions. When you look at both from the fuel perspective and electricity perspective, I didn't see much in there for what the assumptions that are electricity transportation, electricity vehicles. From both perspectives, how is that factored into your planning? And then, Dave, one question I always get, and I kind of rely on EHIP's guidance here, but it's is how much of a change in the electricity rates contribute to the price of natural gas versus the EPA regulations forcing that direction? And maybe other regional differences that we could think of that there. We're very much local areas in our industry that are more heavily dependent on coal as a fuel. So we do the transportation question first, maybe some of the transition questions second. I appreciate that.
In terms of alternative transportation, we see 3 things. One, LNG for over-road trucking, compressed natural gas, a lot of fleet vehicles, where they're, you know, garbage trucks, car service trucks, whatever, people that can refuel overnight. Electric vehicle probably best for the commuter market, residential. It's going to be slow. We look at it like, you know, it's not a game changer for us. If the entire residential market, homeowners, people that commute, regular personal vehicles, converted, it would be like a 15% increase in our total business. And it's going to happen slowly, but it's pretty expensive. It's all about the battery. I mean, if the gas industry found a way to get to the shale gas, I mean, somebody's got to solve the energy storage problem before that's really going to happen. So we're trying to work. We do a lot of work on small fronts. They work on the technology, compatibility, rates, and things like that. But it's out there ways.
Yeah, just add that, we still see the same thing, pretty slow. I think there's about 40,000 plug-in hybrids and electric cars sold last year, which is about less than 0.05% of the new car market. So the economics just aren't there for consumers. Very costly. No payback period really that's within 10 years. So a lot better options for consumers. I think most of the automakers are beginning to recognize that hybridization is probably a much better option, where you have a functional car for consumers, but you get a more fuel efficient car as well. So we think that's going to be kind of where you're going to see most of the growth in kind of a new vehicle technology for consumers.
So getting back to the transition issue, you know, reliability, cost in certain areas, you know, work a lot with EI, and any observations on the regulatory versus price of gas issue, and how that's forcing the conversion of fleet?
You know, it probably varies a lot depending upon, you know, where you're at. You're different with your fleet, with, you know, even within our company, we're facing some real significant risks on some of our systems. In other states, we've been more proactive and we're ahead of the curve. I guess I would say that the EPA regs, anytime you got to take a 40 or 50 or even 30-year-old plant and put almost as much money into it as it costs you to build it in the first place, and then you sit here and look at the uncertainty of carbon regs, other future regs from the EPA, that is like, that's the last place people like me trying to make that decision. Low gas prices just made it a lot easier to make that decision.
Did I see another hand? Was there another question? Oh, okay. One from the floor asking about gas plays outside North America and what their size might be and a time frame that development might begin. I don't know if Todd want to comment on that.
Sure. The latest estimate from the International Energy Agency indicates there's over 200 years supply of natural gas around the world. It's spread pretty proportionally in different regions. A lot of the gas in North America, more than half of the gas in North America is unconventional gas. So that's why we expect by 2040, about 80% of production in North America is going to be unconventional gas. But as David was mentioned, we do see growth in other regions of unconventional gas, Asia Pacific, in one region, China pursuing some of that now. Latin America has quite a bit of unconventional gas as well. Europe, a little bit up in the air what they're going to do around unconventional gas. Countries like France have just kind of banned it outright. UK is looking at it as an option. So it's going to be a slower process in Europe, but we expect over time they're going to be trying to develop some unconventional gas there and move on some of their imports from Russia and gas. So a lot of natural gas around the world. It's a very clean fuel, used in a lot of different applications. In a CO2 environment, it's going to compete very well with coal. Has a lot of advantages that we see to help meet growing needs for energy and also do it in a way that reduces carbon emissions relative to coal. So a lot of potential. We're fundamentally shifting kind of the balance here in North America. Europe's going to remain an importer. Asia Pacific
on the subject, maybe David, your comments on the infrastructure to deliver the transportation and distribution of natural gas. How long is that going to take, and what takes place in the meantime?
You know, I think if you look at the natural gas pipeline and delivery infrastructure in the country, the pipelines, big pipelines have generally done a pretty good job of assessing. They have a few lines that are really big, and they deploy the technology, the inline inspection devices, the smart pigs, and been assessing that for a longer period of time. It's really rolling into the distribution system. For example, we got like 3,000 or 4,000 miles of high pressure pipeline subject to transmission integrity rules, at San Bruno type pipe. But we have 30,000 miles of distribution lines. A lot of those 150-pound lines running through Main Street, Denver, wherever. So we're starting to deploy a lot more technology and looking at renewing those facilities, replacing them. For us, we want to make a big sweeping change in our investments over the next decade and get it done. Get it done while gas prices are low, while financing costs are low, when our communities would like to see the jobs in our backyard, try to help the economy. So we're trying to do that. But companies are kind of spread all over the map. I'd say over the next 20 years. The electric utility industry space is probably a bigger challenge because they've got to replace the poles, the wires, overhead, underground cable. It's all approaching its end of life. And it costs about 5 to 10 times more to replace it now than it did to put it in the first place. Now I got to go into people's backyard. The place is grown up around us. When we built it originally, we're building it out in the green field for new developments. So it's going to be a really expensive proposition. If we had to replace our system today, it would cost 7 times the value of our system. You can't do that all at once, but again, you don't have the economic growth there to pay for it. I'd encourage you to all work with your utilities, work with the delivery companies if you're in a competitive market, and try to understand the plans. Are you spending 2 or 3 or 1 times your depreciation now? Where does this stop?
Maybe the biggest surprise today, or the thing that I learned, was the relative competitiveness of wind here in Colorado. I actually testified on this a year ago in support of utilities and here in Slovenia. Is there something unique about Colorado, about where your demand is, or is that a nationally replicable situation to the relative competitiveness?
It's unique to the central part of the U.S. It's the wind resource that exists, whether it's eastern Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, it's from Texas up to the Dakotas. As long as you got good wind resources, you get the transmission, move the energy. The other things that have lined up, the 2.5-cent energy from wind, take the tax credit away, that's 4 or 4.5 cents. Take the turbine market that's kind of depressed now, and people want to build projects. There's a surplus of equipment available and manufacturing capability. Take that away, and that's another penny. So then you're back to, take away those things, let the tax policy change. You're back to, 5.5 cents. Now you're talking about breaking even with, $6 or $7 gas, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like the start. It happens in the steel industry too. You see those things where the market lines up with the federal policy, and all of a sudden you've got a kind of a boom and a bust. This is a good time to do it, but it does continue to improve.
Any questions from the floor? Well, before we wrap it up here, actually, we do have one follow-up, and I don't see Larry here, but I was talking to David, besides just BSing up a cup of coffee, about the work that AISI does on the steel utility pole tester, and David's company's use of steel and the monopoles and so forth, and hopefully expanding into distribution. So I certainly committed to him that we would get him the information on how we could help do some training in that area as well.
Follow up.
Okay? Make sure Eric gets the demo.
And I just say, you know, since with the hurricanes and problems that the industry has had restoring power services, you know, a lot of questions from government officials about, you know, hardening the system. And I think this industry ought to do some work. What does it cost to underground the system? That's what a lot of people think of, how you bury all the utility lines. Compare the cost of steel poles and that, you're probably going to come out ahead.
Well, I think we have some statistics and performance on you know, how steel is performed in tough environments, hurricanes, and so forth. Okay. Well, please join me in giving our demos.